You're listening to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast, where we talk about growing up with narcissistic moms, how it shapes your nervous system, your relationships, and your sense of self, and how to heal without shame. I'm your host, Nolani Pearl Hernandez.
This episode is sponsored by the Happy Cannabis, body products designed to help you on your healing journey by supporting your nervous system with every application.
Today's conversation is one I've been looking forward to for a long time. After watching Netflix, Trust Me, The False Prophet, I couldn't stop thinking about the striking similarities between cult leaders and narcissistic parents. The manipulation, the coercive control, the gaslighting, the isolation, the way victims slowly lose trust in themselves. Today I'm joined by Dr. Christine Marie, whose courage helped expose one of the most dangerous modern cult leaders, Samuel Bateman. Working alongside law enforcement, she risked her own safety to help rescue women and children trapped in psychological and spiritual abuse. Dr. Christine, I'm so happy that I get to speak to you, not just because I love pink so much and you make me so happy every time I see you, but because of your enormous amounts of strength and your heroism in this huge story that we're going to talk about. So thank you for being here.
My pleasure. I'm really happy to be on your podcast.
One one of the things that we talk about narcissism and mothers, and one of the things that I found through my research is that cult leaders very much share some of the same attitudes, some of the same personality that narcissistic mothers do. And we've had other people on, like Mark Vicente, when he was talking about Nexium. At that same time or around then, I was watching Trust Me, False Prophets on Netflix and was blown away by your calm, by everything. So for those who don't know, and you alluded to it a little bit before Sam Bateman and the False Prophet, you had your own story in surviving a cult and changing the way you kind of recognize what was happening in Short Creek. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was a divorced single mother, and I wanted to be the very best Mormon I could be. And I got interested in polygamy because that was one of the higher laws. As you know, the mainstream Mormon church broke off. The fundamentalists broke off on the mainstream Mormon church over polygamy. So I was open to it. And I met somebody. I wasn't looking for it. I was just open to it. So I met somebody when I was searching for Mr. Right, who happened to have been a polygamist. And is that good English? I haven't been a minute. Anyway, and I got lured into his story, and I believed it was true. He had written some documents which I believed were true, and I believed he was a new prophet. And next thing you know, I'm obeying the prophet at the peril of my life.
Wow. What was there was there a moment that while you were recording this documentary, because a lot of it, my assumption is because it happens to me as I'm doing these podcasts, I get a lot of the trauma kind of rebuilds up for me. And so when did this stop really being a documentary, and the documentary that we saw, to becoming a rescue mission for all those wonderful women?
Well, it didn't start as a documentary. It started as a ruse to get evidence. We were working on a different documentary.
Okay.
Right? About the FLDS. And Sam saw pieces of it because Tova showed him. And then Sam wanted to be in that one. So the more Sam filmed, the more he wanted to film, because it, talk about narcissism.
It fed into his narcissism.
Right. And in fact, I was very much against a documentary on Sam for a long time. And I even have it I just noticed it in the past couple of weeks, that I even have it in some of my um, legal documents that,
Hmm.
I mean, things that I shared with law enforcement, because media was camping outside their house. And my fear
Mm.
was that if this story became big before we had the investigation button down, that he would move away
Hmm.
with
Hmm.
everybody. And he
Hmm.
was gathering passports, and there was a budget for a plane. He's a
Oh my
pilot,
goodness.
you
Oh
know,
my
and
goodness.
he kept going to Mexico for some reason. So we
Hmm.
were
Hmm.
afraid that if this became big before he was arrested, that we might lose him. So it was not a documentary and then a rescue mission. It was first and foremost,
A rescue
you know,
mission.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm. That's amazing. You know, looking back, and for those of you who haven't watched it, you have to watch it, listen to the podcast, and then watch it again, because that's what I'm going to do, to kind of look back at what was going on. And was there ever a point where you thought, oh my goodness, we're going to need to walk away? This is just too dangerous for me and my husband.
And it was definitely dangerous.
Hmm.
The option of walking away was not something that we seriously entertained, but we had times where we couldn't keep going for a while.
Hmm.
I had to
Hmm.
go in therapy. I also
Hmm.
used the FBI special agent as
Hmm.
a cry on her shoulder. And I needed to get a lot of support, because I just felt that complexity of knowing that they were victims when they didn't know it,
Hmm. Hmm.
and knowing that they were going to suffer more when they learned that I'm the one that shed a light on their prophet's crimes to authorities. And he was taken away. The father of their children was taken away because of
Hmm.
me.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I just knew the betrayal and the harm that they would feel was caused by me, and didn't know if any of them would ever stop hating me.
And I know that this is not a question that's on our list of things, but I because I follow the girls, I know that you have a close relationship with many of them, and they're flourishing. And in fact, it's one of their birthdays today, and it's just such a lovely thing to see the growth. And I think that for a lot of people, a lot of women, a lot of men that have been children of narcissistic parents, that thought process of them not understanding that they're in an abusive relationship and people trying to slowly dissect them out of it is probably one of the biggest fears that the opposite parent has. I know for my dad, he never really talked about my mom being like that. And so I think that feeling that you just said, like, is a very, like, it hits me really deeply, because I can see that. You know, I always am amazed by men like Sam Bateman or other cult leaders that believe that they are the prophet, or that they proclaim that. So do you think that he really believed the prophet, that he was a
No,
prophet, or okay,
no,
okay. So he
no.
knew what he
I
was doing.
That is my belief,
Hmm.
because one of his one of his themes was that Warren Jeffs was not in prison, that it was a mannequin there, that he actually was this immortal person now, like he'd gone through
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
process that Mormons believe in called translation,
Hmm.
and that he was
Hmm.
some kind of immortal person who could speak to him. So he knew that wasn't true. He knew Warren Jeffs wasn't appearing talking to him. He knew that if Warren Jeffs had actually died, that it would be world news. Every little thing is world
Hmm.
news in this town.
Hmm.
And if Warren
Hmm.
Jeffs had died,
Hmm.
he would everybody would know, and there would be a big funeral, and he'd be in the cemetery.
Hmm.
But no, I don't believe that he knew. I mean, that he believed that he was a prophet.
Hmm.
And he just, I believe he was a natural predator from his childhood.
Hmm.
He was
Hmm.
aggressive as a
Hmm.
child. And I
Mm-hmm,
believe
mm-hmm,
that he just figured out how he could gain control over the people who believed in him.
mm-hmm. You know, it was interesting while I was watching the documentary when it first came out. There was this look that he had. There's like this specific look
Mhm.
that people who have been in narcissistic relationships or have been through this kind of cult leader like brainwashing, that he had that look. Or if one of the girls he believed was misbehaving, there was this look that like just sent chills down my spine, because it was the same look that I would get if I was acting like a kid and I was doing something my mom didn't like. And it was interesting. I didn't expect that, watching something like that. I didn't expect it.
Yeah, we caught it. So he made me nervous when so there was this one time when we were in the greenhouse, which is where Sam was with all of his wives,
Mm-hmm,
a
mm-hmm,
two-bedroom house with, like 20 wives and all these children. And he said something, and one of his wives corrected it
mm-hmm,
and said, "That's not what you said before. Before you said something or other." And I thought, "Oh no, oh
mm-hmm,
no, she's
mm-hmm,
gonna get reamed."
mm-hmm,
And I don't know what happened, but I did learn that when we would leave, he would his word was rebuke, which means humiliate, insult,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
destroy.
mm-hmm,
He would be picking them apart because he wanted to put on this perfect show. And so they would go through, difficult times if they weren't perfect when they were with us.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Gosh, and every time I do an interview, whether male, female, or with a person who survived a cult, that those things ring true when you're dealing with a narcissistic mother. And I think for a lot of people who have narcissistic parents or a narcissistic romantic relationship, or they're in a cult, to know that their community, the people they can lean on, is vastly larger than that person makes it. There's so many people out there. And you know when I watched him, and if someone is watching him and watching him speak, there are subtle behaviors that would tell them to pay attention to him. What did you see in those behaviors? Like, what did he do specifically?
Well, for one thing, he would cut people off while they were talking and tell them what they're supposed to say, right?
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm,
mean, we caught a little bit of that made it on the documentary. Now, let me remind you, Toga and I filmed, but we were filming primarily for law enforcement,
mm-hmm,
hoping
mm-hmm,
to catch evidence. And we didn't filter what we filmed. We
mm-hmm,
just gave it all. But
mm-hmm,
in that process, he, I mean, we would sometimes catch him slipping up, and we would catch that look.
mm-hmm,
Or so we didn't know exactly what was going to end up in the final documentary because
mm-hmm,
we just entrusted the footage to a production company, and they
mm-hmm,
put it all together, and we didn't even see it until 2 weeks before it came out.
mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
when I say it made it into the documentary, it's because we're not the ones that built the story out of the
Right,
footage.
right.
So, but yeah, a couple things did show up in there, in where he's, you know, um, telling people, what to say. But another thing he would do is send people over
Mm-hmm,
to our house,
mm-hmm,
or they would come on their own
mm-hmm,
because they knew it would please him,
mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm,
have them talk about how much they loved him on camera.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Sam did not allow the girls to be vain. They
mm-hmm,
couldn't primp in the mirror for very long, like, or
mm-hmm,
even look at themselves in the mirror. They wouldn't let the children see pictures of themselves
mm-hmm,
on the phone because they would become vain. But when it came to him, you know, he was having his hair dyed, and people, before we filmed him one time, he was getting all primped up, and
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
but this white jacket that they told us was $15,000. And I'm thinking,
Oh, that jacket, yeah.
and he's eating dinner. Like, at his birthday or anniversary things, he
Hmm.
would be sitting there like a king eating while
Hmm.
everybody else is working or singing or serving him, at least for a while. And
Hmm.
I mean, the fact that the whole world revolved around him, he was
Hmm.
centered.
Hmm.
So there was something going on that let those wives know you center Sam
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
you're in trouble.
Hmm. Hmm. You know, I laugh because I'm going to try to say this as nicely as possible, but Sam is not a good looking guy. Like he's not. And I think my husband is incredibly handsome. So I am always shocked when someone like Sam can convince someone, and not just one person, he convinced an entire community that he was, the bee's knees, that he was like, he's the one. And I don't even know how you would begin to accomplish something like that. Like what? Sorry, go ahead.
I I believe it was because he took over the mantle of the prophet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it
Mm-hmm.
was really his position that they fell for, not
Mm-hmm.
him.
Mm.
And once
Mm.
they did, they wanted to see him that way. And, they had confirmation bias. They would
Mm-hmm.
see everything that he did and as if it was an appropriate thing for a prophet to do. And they were
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
prophet's wives or
Mm-hmm.
they were,
Mm-hmm.
men that stood up for the prophet. So I don't think it was his personality. I do think it was his deceptiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And he was
Mm-hmm.
confident too. That confidence
Mm-hmm.
becomes a sneeze. Hang on.
Mm-hmm. No worries.
Oh, I think I'm not going to sneeze. Um, sorry.
No, it's okay.
But his confidence went a long way because as
Mm-hmm.
honest people, we don't expect another human being to do something as bold as
Mm-hmm.
pretend you are a prophet speaking to God Himself.
Mm-hmm.
So when we have believed that for generations and we finally meet someone, I mean, many FLDS did say, that's a crock of shit. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they did
Mm-hmm.
shit, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
they were like, would have nothing to do with him. But for the people who opened their minds to the possibility and ended up believing in him, they would then see everything from that lens
Mm-hmm.
because they were hungry for certainty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Their prophet wasn't communicating with them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And here, Sam represented this is a way you can get communications with the current prophet. And so they were just so hungry for that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Why do you think that people didn't see the red flags at the same time? Why do you think it took like dribs and drabs for them? Because I saw you could see when the girls started to kind of come out of that haze, is what we call it, that narcissistic haze. But some of them didn't come out right away. And I attributed some of it to them being young. But why do you think that everyone didn't see the red flags at the same time?
Well, I think it's because of groupthink. They
Hmm.
were in a fishbowl where everybody was monitoring everybody else. And
Hmm.
then you have some very smart and college educated women
Hmm.
in that group that were
Hmm.
mothers saying their testimonies, you
Hmm.
know, um, declaring their beliefs
Hmm. Hmm.
and interpreting coincidences and things that they see happen in their lives, like nature. It's they're giving meaning to random events and using
Hmm.
it as data that he's really the real thing. So people are trusting in the words of others. It's called social proof. When
Hmm. Hmm.
you
Hmm.
see everybody else doing something, you think it's okay. And I think the fact that they were all together and all confirming the same um, story, it made
Hmm.
it hard to say no. They're all wrong.
Was there one lie that seemed to kind of unlock that complete obedience from his followers? Like, what was the one thing that, if you just weren't sure, he came with the lie and then that was it?
Remember when he was in front of us,
Hmm.
he put on a you know, he put
An
on a
extra show.
show. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do know that he required everybody to obey, be
Hmm.
obedient. And
Hmm.
he also
Hmm.
had them doing affirmations, writing affirmations, like it was um, punishment in high school.
Oh,
You had
your
to write it over
lines.
and over,
Yeah.
pages and pages and pages. Like I love Samuel Bateman. I love Samuel. He is my. I will obey. I will
Oh my
obey Father. I call him Father. I will obey Father. I will obey Father. We would have to write that morning and night, pages and pages of the same sentence over and over and over.
God, that is maddening. I mean, when I was way back when, since I'm turning 50 next year, way back when I was in grade school, we would get lines when we would do something, we would get in trouble or something was going on, and we would say, we can't be late to class or whatever it was. And, we sure as heck weren't late then. we,
Yeah.
we listened and we went. So of course, I mean, especially for the girls who were younger, that would absolutely convince them to obey or whatever things that he was asking. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, he would humiliate them if they didn't.
Hmm. Hmm.
And they were all walking on eggshells because they were afraid to get rebuked in front of the other girls. And it would be a very devastating experience for them. So he had them like a scared pack of kittens.
Mm.
And whatever he said, they wanted to do it. He pressured them to be able to predict what he wanted, so he didn't even have to tell them. It was incredibly controlling.
Gosh, and you mentioned that you're a mother and I'm a mother, and I can't imagine who could convince me as a parent to surrender any of my daughters, even on the days that they have the worst attitudes. I wouldn't do it, right? And so, how do you think he convinced all of those mothers and fathers to surrender those daughters to him? Like,
In Mormon culture,
mhm, mhm,
including mainstream church,
mhm, mhm,
you start from childhood singing songs like Follow the Prophet,
mhm, mhm,
hearing talks in Sunday school and in all the general conference meetings about the importance of following the prophet.
mhm,
And
mhm,
the FLDS were no different. And there is a belief that if you do not follow the prophet, you will be destroyed.
mhm, mhm,
So the key was the amount of faith that they had in him being a prophet.
mhm,
I had that same experience. I
mhm,
was a mother. I
mhm,
was educated
mhm,
and
mhm,
a little, and I believed if I did not do what my prophet wanted me to do,
mhm,
that I would suffer eternal consequences. And he
mhm,
separated me from my children for a while. I
mhm,
didn't give them away or give them up, but
mhm,
he wanted me to.
mhm,
And,
mhm,
so something in me found a workaround on how I could
mhm,
not, how I could get away with not doing that.
mhm,
I think that because the women were, raised in a patriarchal society,
mhm,
that what they thought was not as important as obeying their husband. I
mhm,
know that Julia did not want any of her girls to go to Sam.
mhm, mhm,
And
mhm.
she expressed that, but then she suffered the consequences as a result of it. And then he started marrying her daughters without her even knowing.
Mhm,
So it's more nuanced than
mhm,
it looks. It's not
mhm,
like all of a sudden he said, "Give me your children," and they said
mhm.
yes.
Right.
There were battles and struggles and
Well, and I think that because FDLS is so, a lot of people don't know much about it. Like, what we know about Mormonism often is that they're the people who come to the door and they come and do, the prayers with you in your living room. And as they don't really know much more to it. And it sounds like, especially in this sect, in this cult, in this with Sam Bateman and previous, there was really that want to control in order to benefit from that control. And that is really something that is common for narcissistic abuse survivors and daughters of narcissistic mothers, because we're not daughters. We're not, children. We are a pawn in whatever they need next.
Right.
And, as I watch the women and all with you and your strength to get through this, and all the women who were in the documentary, I couldn't help but really see a lot of some similarities. Did you notice any common psychological patterns among the women who eventually found that strength for them to leave?
Well, I found commitment.
Taking a quick break from our podcast to let you know about today's sponsors. Feeling overwhelmed by anxiety? Does it have you overthinking, second guessing yourself, or constantly on edge? Meet eye care, a 14-day experience designed to help you understand your anxiety patterns and practice simple, evidence-based tools that fit into real life. Each day includes a quick exercise, practical insights, and AI-guided reflection. Start your free 3-day trial at iCare.app to discover a different way to work with anxiety, helping you build greater calm and confidence day by day. If perimenopause has your muscles aching, your stress levels climbing, or your nervous system feeling like it's working overtime, check out the Happy Cannabis. Their THC-free, plant-powered CBD body oils, sugar scrubs, and goat milk soaps are designed to support everyday wellness and help you unwind naturally. Use code BMD20 to save 20% on your order and give your body a little extra love. And now back to our episode.
Mm-hmm.
Let's think about Gnomes. Gnomes
Mm-hmm,
was
mm-hmm.
very passionate and committed
Mm-hmm.
to Sam while she believed in Sam.
Yes.
And we recognize that. And one of the people who filmed, besides Toga, was a young woman. She said, if Gnomes would just wake up, she could put all that energy and that
Mm-hmm.
passion into something that would really help her life. So
Mm-hmm.
we could see it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same with a lot of the other young women as well.
Mm-hmm.
They, to the degree that they were committed, they can use that energy and focus and passion on something that will help their lives
Mm-hmm.
now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But as far
That
as
was what. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
but as far as psychological patterns, I don't. The only thing is that they all were in a situation of coercion, and they were all compelled to comply.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's just a survival brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting that you say that about Gnomes, because when I was watching it, at first I thought she would be the last to leave.
Right.
I totally thought that because of her, her commitment to him. And it was very interesting just watching her. It made me uncomfortable because of the things she was doing, but it was very interesting. And then as I've seen her, because she's someone I follow on Instagram, and I'll put this in the show notes so people can see the growth that has happened. She is kicking ass. Excuse my language. She is
Yes.
amazing.
I know. She's doing so great.
Yeah. And I love the relationship that a lot of the survivors have with you, because I think that for them, you going through something similar, they look at you as a very like a motherly figure who has helped lead them to this life of still
being, believing in what you believing and still like being faithful and, believing in religion, but also being able to be yourself. And that's huge.
I hope so. Let me point out that there are plenty who
Hmm.
still are very angry with me.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
you would think that when they leave Sam that they would leave their anger and be like, I'm free. Oh, thank you, Christine, for going to the FBI and sticking this out. But
Hmm.
they have, these thought patterns that were ingrained in them while they were with Sam.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
most of the girls I have a good relationship with, but there are a couple that, I don't either, they're in other states and I don't talk to them, or
Hmm. Hmm.
that they're influenced by their sisters who are still
Hmm. Hmm.
part of the blue house where
Hmm. Hmm.
the
Hmm.
followers live or hang out.
Are they and I know this question wasn't on there. I know that there were males that were under Sam. Are those males still, is that still all part of, is it still going, or has it kind of disbanded? Because I heard you refer to the Blue House.
Well, the men that were shown under him in a chart in the documentary,
Hmm.
they're in prison. They're in prison.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
One of them, one of them woke up, and that was Moroni, and he took accountability and went to the FBI.
Mm,
And people sometimes question whether he was sincere or not. Maybe he just did it because he knew he was caught, but he I'm a witness that he
mhm.
would not take an attorney to that FBI meeting like the FBI was saying, bring an attorney. And
Wow.
he was saying, I don't want an attorney. I don't even want a deal. I just want to start cleaning up,
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
damage I caused. So I do
Wow.
believe that he was sincere,
Hmm.
in his trying to be accountable for what he did.
Hmm.
Um, the other ones still believe in Sam, but there are other men still who did not commit those crimes who to this day believe in Sam.
It's I want to just a little bit. Roni, was that his name, who went to the FBI? Um,
Moroni,
Moroni, right? Moroni. Thank you. He is a example of it's never too late to do the right thing.
true.
Because I think for a lot of people who are stuck in, whatever, some kind of relationship, or maybe they're a cult leader and they listen to this, whatever it is, it's never too late to do the right thing, because you can change the direction of where things are going. I think that's a really, really important thing. Um, one of the things that we often talk about, is that people don't leave these kind of relationships. Not because they are becoming stronger, they leave because they finally trust themselves. And so, was there a common like turning point when you saw that these women began trusting their own tuition, trusting their tummies, as we say, versus what they were hearing?
Well, that would be something known by the foster families
Mhm,
because
mhm, mhm,
when when the search warrant was executed and there was this big raid, then the young women, I mean the children were taken by DCFS
mhm,
and
mhm,
put in a group home. In the
mhm,
group home, nobody woke up because the whole group was still together, and you had the more passionate, aggressive older girls overseeing the
mhm,
activities of the younger girls, and
mhm,
they had so much influence, no one could wake up in that close close knit of a group.
mhm,
It wasn't until they were all separated
mhm, mhm, mhm,
into foster family homes. So it was getting time away
mhm,
from the group and the pressure, and working with the parents of the foster parents. They're the ones that help them deconstruct as individuals. Now, so yay for them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, the older, a little bit older girls like Gnomes and Moretta,
Mhm.
they woke up because they went to prison and
Mm.
they didn't have constant conversations from prison with the Blue House, with the
Mm.
people. The Blue House means the
Mhm.
Sam.
Mhm.
So it took Gnomes quite a while in prison before she would even speak to a therapist. So
Mm.
she
Mhm.
hung on tight.
Mhm.
And then Moretta started seeing the light, which is Julia's daughter that went to prison.
Mhm.
She
Mhm.
started waking up from her fog pretty early,
Mhm.
but not
Mhm.
immediately.
Mhm.
But it was
Mhm.
it was that separation. So as long as
Mhm.
those people are still living over there or hanging out over there or in constant communication,
Mhm.
then
Mhm.
it's going to be harder for them to truly wake up.
Mhm. It's often what the way that you're saying it, the way that I'm saying it, the waking up from that haze is really what it is. I know that when I'm like on Friday of last week, I did 3 podcasts. So it was back to back to back.
Oh,
And I was exhausted by the end of the day because we're not talking about, light, heavy stuff or chisme, gossip in Spanish. We're not talking about chisme. We're like, it's heavy. And so by the end of the day, these are really they're big things. So the haze is there. And so that lifting up that haze stops my automatic reactions, stops me thinking that someone might be being critical of me when they're trying to help. And I think that is really, really important. Um, Knowing that you can come out of the haze. And it sounds like um, the people who helped each of them, whether they were, in prison or they were in a foster home, they're angels because
they are.
it's a lot. It's a lot.
They are. And then, of course, once they start deconstructing from
Hmm.
Sam, then the family's right there. Because when they
Hmm.
believe in Sam, they didn't want to be close to their family. They might not have even talked to many family members. But the minute they started deconstructing, they started reaching out and they had a lot of support from the families.
That's, I'm really glad that the people who are out have gotten out. And my hope is that this will act as hopefully like a bridge for other people who are still in this to get out. You
I hope
know,
so too.
yeah, it's you and your husband were like little like undercover detectives as I watched this. And I was astounded by how well you kept it all together. And in the face of like, I mean, the devil himself, right? And there were moments where, I watched it. I don't know if you did, if when you forgot that you weren't law enforcement, that you weren't just undercover, and how much pressure did you feel knowing that all of these women or all of these people who were under this control were depending on you to get this information?
I felt tremendous pressure.
Mhm.
I felt every single day
Mhm.
that it was those girls were at risk of being abused several times a day, every single day. And so I didn't want any grass to grow under my feet. I was in a hurry.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I was quite, I was banging on the door, making the calls, trying to do
Mhm.
what I could.
Mhm.
I called the FBI long before they officially got involved, but they explained that they couldn't get involved until they had a referral from local law enforcement
Mhm.
that showed that there was an interstate crime and that it would be within their jurisdiction.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
I was doing what I could.
Yeah, and I think for a lot of people, that's what happens. I think back to when I first understood what it was going on in my house and going and trying to talk to people and people saying, that doesn't seem like it really is happening. And, people not believing it and me just basically without screaming at the top of my lungs saying, can you please just look into
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Um, did, did Sam ever suspect you too?
I don't think so.
Well,
I
he's a
mean, there
dum
was a
dum.
moment, not a very good prophet. Anyway,
No, no,
um,
he's not.
but there was a moment when he brought baby over to see us.
Mhm.
And I said, "Oh, this baby's so cute. She looks just like her daddy." And he got offended at the word daddy because they say father.
Mhm.
And something about that spooked him. This is early on, very early on. And so then they shunned us for like 3 months.
Really?
Yeah,
That's so odd. I mean, that's such a like it's a normal reaction. Like
I
you to
know,
say, that's so odd.
I
Huh.
know, I know. So then they came back, and after they came back around, then the trust was great. He told
Mhm.
his followers that it was just a test.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and then we were back in the swing of things. But when we were shunned, we didn't know the extent of what was going on.
Mhm.
And to
Mhm.
me, it
Mhm.
makes sense that we were shunned because, it might have been, um, there was one baby born that was conceived when a girl was underage. Maybe that was the
Mhm.
baby. I never
Maybe.
really
Mhm.
thought about that, but for some reason he got spooked and was worried. But after that, then he trusted us so much. Like he wouldn't let any men around the women, not even his own followers. He wouldn't let them look at men if they went out.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
did a presentation for them one time on fashion,
Mhm.
Gentile or outsider fashion,
Mhm. Mhm.
and because they were going to start dressing, they call it dressing down
Mhm.
when they went
Mhm.
to court and such.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was doing the presentation. One of the things they asked was, are there any hairstyles for long hair?
Oh.
What kind of hairstyles should we do? So I went online to search long hairstyles, and on my computer, a picture of a man popped up. And Sam was like, get him off the screen. No, no, no. He's all panicking because they saw a man. He was incredibly jealous. But in spite of all this, he said they could be around Tolga because Tolga
Interesting.
has no lust. Tolga has no lust.
That's so interesting. Well,
Yeah.
he
So
does for you, but for no one else.
I'm like, I mean, we laughed about that quite a bit. My no lust husband.
Oh my gosh. That I mean, he really believed it. Like that man, yuck, gross. Like just I don't know how he pulled it, but okay. Like ugh.
I know. And he said,
Uh,
I trust Tolga and Christine more than I trust myself. I think it was pertaining to the footage we were taking,
mm, mhm,
and
mhm.
yeah, so he did trust us, and I did not feel guilty about violating his trust, believe
No,
me.
I don't think you should. Screw him. I mean,
Of course,
seriously.
of
Ugh,
course.
ugh.
I mean,
Um,
I actually enjoyed violating his trust.
Good for you. I'm glad. And after everything you witnessed, was there something that still like bothers you? Like when you think back to, spending the time that you did with them and you're like, oh, that just, it for me when I was watching it, and I know I didn't get all the footage, for me was just, and I think this is why Gnome's story like so makes me happy, is just that blind trust that she had for him, and she was so young, and that blind trust, and I was just like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, and that was hard for me to watch. Was there something that for you that was really hard that you
Yeah.
Mhm.
I was very bothered by the way he worked the older women.
Mm,
Like, they had to do physical work, carry stuff into the truck that they were
mhm,
using to go on their picnic, and get all the food and get the babies all set up. And I mean, sometimes other people would help, but seeing the older moms,
mhm,
they just they were just like treated like servants.
Mm,
and having to
mhm,
babysit the babies
mhm,
when Sam was
mhm,
off, girls doing who knows what,
mhm,
but
mhm,
they were just, I felt like they were mistreated. I mean, of course the girls were mistreated.
mhm,
I also was bothered when different girls, he calls his wives girls,
mhm,
whether they're girls or not, but when
mhm,
different girls or young women or older women
mhm,
would be off in the corner, sad or looking like they had just been crying,
mhm,
I was always um, tormented by it. Like, what happened?
mhm,
That they're
mhm,
that they're
mhm,
in a crisis right now.
mhm. That's the empathy that he doesn't have.
Yeah.
That's what that is because, I was teasing before when I met Esther, your assistant, who also was in the show, about how I just cried the entire time. And I said, it's probably perimenopause, but it wasn't. It was just that empathy that I had as I was watching these women, as I was thinking about what you possibly were going through, like the thought process. I just, it ripped me apart. And I'm like a glutton for punishment when it comes to this stuff because I study cults and true crime and whatnot. And I know that you've spent many years studying cults. Um, what do you think that people misunderstand most about brainwashing?
That it's a series of psychological processes that are explainable and
Hmm.
that anybody can be susceptible to it.
Hmm.
We have all these invisible influences and cognitive biases
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
if we're not aware of them, and it's hard to be aware of all of them,
Hmm.
but if we're completely oblivious to them, then we're not going to realize when we're being manipulated.
Mm-mm. Yeah, and that brings me to I think the next question of, can intelligence protect against this and joining a cult or being brainwashed?
No, I mean, studies show that cult members tend to be higher in intelligence
Hmm.
than the average bear,
Hmm.
and then skepticism can help,
Hmm. Hmm.
questioning can help,
Hmm.
but oftentimes people are intelligent, passionate, creative idealists
Hmm.
who are honest,
Hmm.
looking for a good cause. And in a cult, it doesn't look like a cult to the outside at first.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Sometimes,
Hmm.
it can look like a movement to do something good. So people are joining a good movement where
Hmm.
they now have all these new friends and feeling of belonging. And then that gradually or quickly changes.
Hmm. Hmm. And I find that with, I've been watching a couple of these yoga cults because, like I said, I'm a glutton for punishment. So I watch a lot of documentaries on cults. And you're right. It's like even what seems as if it's a good thing, right? Of course, what is it? The Manson murders, like that cult,
Right.
they didn't get involved in it because it was a good cult. But when you look at some of these other things, like a yoga cult, or there's a new cult, I can't remember where it is, but his followers were about saving the universe or saving the environment. It doesn't have to start that way. And I think that for a lot of people, and especially those who are religious, so like myself, and I came back to religion after leaving because I felt there was, um, I thought it was like control. Like, how do you control this person? And is there a difference between? I think we answered the question between faith and control. And where do you think the lines get crossed for people?
Well, in a religious group, you can have one family or one individual interpret it a certain way and live it a certain way,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
the other family can be their way of living it and being controlled by it is a cult. So in this group, this family can be in a cult, and then
Mhm.
this family isn't in the same group.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's really, it's not just the red flags in a group to see whether it's a cult. It's also, it also has to be compared to your personal disposition
Mhm.
and how easily subjugated you are and how willing you are to obey authority, like most people are,
Mhm.
so the line is crossed when it gets coercive. So if you
Mhm.
can be in a religion that it can encourage you to do good things,
Mhm.
that's great.
Mhm.
It can provide this second family for you. That's great too. That's
Mhm.
positive. It's psychologically healthy. But when it goes far into that influence continuum,
Mhm.
where there's a lot of undue
Mhm.
influence and co-control, that's where the line is drawn.
Mhm. Mhm. You know, one of the things that has happened since this documentary is more recently there was a trial that you all shared, and I found it really odd that I found it odd, but not surprising, but also surprising that Sam acted as his own lawyer.
I know.
It was like, way to hand it in there, buddy. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way. But did you ever worry that, or were, or what has most surprised you about life since he's been arrested and now convicted and now in jail?
I think the thing that surprised me the most is that more people haven't left, that they're
Mm,
still hanging on in spite of seeing his flaws and his deceptions in full living color. They're still
mhm,
hanging on. That's a surprising thing.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I akin it to, if we're comparing like narcissistic parents to Sam Bateman, I akin it to that daughter, that son who keeps going back to the narcissistic parent. Like, they're going to do the same thing over and over again, and they're never going to change. And even when they get called out, some people keep going back to them. And, I think that for a lot of the people who will be listening, what I think is really important, because we've spent time on Sam, is this flip side of the survivor and the strength of the survivor. What is one thing that you wish every survivor of this kind of psychological, coercive abuse understood about themselves in order to get them through?
The basic thing is that you are not what happened to you. What happened
Mhm.
to you does not define you. Your
Mhm.
identity is up to you. You
Mhm.
can continue to build it and craft it
Mhm.
and make your life so that there are joys in your future. You can write your happy ending.
Mhm.
And and I think that, understanding that what happened to you does not make you abnormal.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
many people, millions of people, have ultimately believed in things that they now look back on and go, what the heck was I thinking? How could I have ever believed that?
Mhm.
You know, once you come out of the haze,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's a normal thing. So to let go of that self-blame and
Mhm.
understand, I mean, I had that too when I
Mhm.
came out of my situation. I was like, how did I believe that? How
Mhm.
did I fall for that?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I thought that nobody else on the planet Earth would have ever fallen for it. So I wanted to be tested for mental deficiencies and disabilities because I thought this is not normal, you know? And then I learned that I my brain did what any normal brain
Mhm.
would do
Mhm.
under the extreme and intense coercion and deception that I had experienced. My
Mhm.
brain was manipulated
Mhm.
and I was still a good person.
Mm-hmm.
Out of
Mm-hmm.
that.
Well, and I think that one of the things, like, number one, of course, you're a wonderful person. You wouldn't have done all this work that you've done to save all these women. So that's the first thing I hope that you know, and I will vocalize. I think the second thing is that there's hope for a better future, right? Like, I think about
Right.
myself. If I thought that I would have not ever had this safety, this comfort, the relationship that I had, I probably would have stayed where I was. You have your amazing husband, you have your safety, all of those things, and the work that you do. I am incredibly blessed and realize it every day that I open my eyes, not only to be waking up, but also to be where I'm at. So I appreciate you and all you've done. My last question for you is, you have seen humanity both at its darkest while doing this work for the FBI undercover and the documentary, and at its bravest. What gives you hope today?
I am filled with hope when I see women reclaim their power after abuse,
Mhm,
when they find their voice and tell their story with integrity and without stigma,
mhm,
and knowing that they can march into the future with all their own free agency. And I see a lot of that here in this town.
mhm, mhm,
It's a very complex town. It's
mhm,
Colorado
mhm,
City,
mhm,
the
mhm,
originally known as the home of the FLDS,
mhm.
but now there's only about 3% FLDS. The rest have left the FLDS or they're outsiders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because there were all these evictions that went on and things like that. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in different journeys and different stages in their journey. And I am filled with hope when I see more and more people abandon their superiority
Mhm,
and their narcissism
mhm, mhm.
and and stop judging and just start helping.
I love that. What a beautiful way to end this. And I think also I want to end it on our love for pink,
Yes.
because we love, like, that's how I got Dr. Christine hooked. I said, we will just do a podcast talking about pink. So, Dr. Christine, thank you so much for being here. I absolutely loved it. I'm filled with life and out to go be just amazing. So I thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you. And after um, can you stop recording?
Thank you so much for joining us for this incredibly important conversation. If today's episode reminded you of your own experiences, whether a narcissistic parent, abusive partner, or another controlling relationship, I want you to remember this. You are not what happened to you. Your past explains your story, but it does not define your future. As Dr. Christine shared so beautifully, manipulation follows predictable psychological patterns. That means if you were manipulated, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. And just as people can be manipulated, they can also heal too. If this episode encouraged you, please take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who may still be questioning their own reality. You never know whose life you could change because you shared this conversation. If you're ready to stop letting your narcissistic mother live rent-free in your mind, I love to support you. Join our free webinar happening at the end of August. Thank you for listening to the Beyond Mommy Dearest podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a 5-star review, and share it with someone who could use a little hope today. To learn more about coaching, upcoming events, and our growing community, visit the links in the show notes. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep healing, and remember, you are worthy of love, peace, and a life beyond survival.
Your skin is a part of your nervous system, and taking care of it is essential to overall balance. Our products are specifically formulated to nourish your skin and bring you closer to homeostasis with every use. Start feeling better in your body today with the Happy Cannabis.